guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
Entitled Neighbor Removes Fence to Have Access to My Driveway. I rent out the downstairs of a two-story house. My landlord is pretty diligent and good about taking care of stuff around here, and just paid $6K to have the driveway paved so parking would be easier. The home next door is a giant house with a few apartments and a single-lane driveway for 2 cars that leads to the backyard. But one of the tenant owns a bunch of cars, 5+, and a giant repair/plow truck, and is always doing work day and night on these cars, ignoring noise ordinances and using drills and floodlight, and letting the apartment look like a junkyard, so just an overall asshat. Because of all the cars and miscellaneous garbage, the tenants have to switch cars around every day, so that the big truck can get in and out of a parking spot and everyone else can find parking at any given time around his crowd. There is a short fence between our 2 driveways, made of metal piping that's been there for 50+ years to divide the driveways. But when we had our drive paved, he paid to have someone come and rip it all out. I didn't even notice anything, but my landlord noticed big tire tracks on the fresh pavement and in the backyard, and noticed the fencing gone. When she asked the neighbor, he boasted that now that we have our driveway paved, it's easier for him to park and maneuver his truck around, so he had all the fencing taken down so he can use our backyard to turn his truck around and park in our driveway. My landlord was stunned that he just decided on his own that he would be parking in our backyard and on our driveway. The pavement is only a few inches thick, so his truck would crack it relatively easy. And his truck will certainly create tracks in the backyard come spring when the ground is soft, not to mention that he just does not live here. So I come home last night, and the landlord is outside with her fiancé, putting up this ugly chicken wire fencing, and regaled the whole story to me, and told me to tell her if anything happens. Well, I come home from classes today, and the guy is outside and runs over when I'm home and starts cussing me out for putting up a fence and telling me we need to take it down and pay him for half of the cost of removing the old fence. I didn't even know what to say. I just let him know that's not happening and he doesn't have permission to use the driveway or our yard. Well, while I was inside, he ripped out all the fencing we put up. I called my landlord and now she's dealing with the police, and she wants to take him to court and yada yada. I'm just flabbergasted at the absolute brazen entitlement to using our yard and taking down stuff that is on our property. I didn't even think bittersweet is the only way I can describe this now. My boyfriend and I were ready for our next step of the relationship, moving in together. After searching for a place that met our requirements, pet-friendly, 2 bedrooms so we can have an office, in town so we're close to work, and so forth, we were ready to go. It was an older complex but well-loved, and the community there was friendly and open, mostly families or elderly, a few divorcees, but everyone got along fairly well. The landlady was polite, and when there was a maintenance issue it was resolved within a day or 2. We were happy, for the most part. The week we moved in, I was coming home from work in the morning, I work nights, and one of our neighbors flagged me down and asked for a jump, apologizing for inconveniencing me. I didn't mind at all as I knew what it was like. We chatted and I found they were a couple living next door in App 212 with 2 boys, friendly, hardworking, just doing what they could to take care of things. Their sons came over during our first week there and asked if we needed help with anything. I gave them a few little chores and rewarded them with lunch when we were done, then ended the day with a round of Monopoly. They soon would be over on our days off to hang out, play cards, games, or just talk. We didn't mind as we had our nephew over twice a week who was in their age range, and it gave him someone to play with. It was all kosher for the first month. Then during a visit from the mom, when she was coming to get her boys, she asked if they had eaten. I nodded, saying we were experimenting with ramen recipes that night. She nodded, then confessed that she wasn't getting paid for another 2 days and they didn't have enough for food, so she was scared they were going to go without and was grateful for what we were doing. So I talked to my boyfriend. We pooled together some money, and I took her grocery shopping. Basic things: rice, beans, bread, peanut butter, oats, stuff that had a long pantry life, that could be spiced up with the proper seasonings, which I got as well. I like kids, and coming from a family that believes in taking care of folks, this just seemed like the right thing to do. She was thankful, and we received a thank you in the form of a letter from the boys that even now I still have hanging on my fridge, and a filing cabinet that doesn't work on my patio I turned into a table, it was the thought that counts. We ended up giving them a lot of things for moving in that we didn't need. Clothes we didn't wear that were still in good shape, a mattress for one of the boys because they were sharing a bed, a toaster oven that worked fine, but neither of us would use, because they were nice to us, and we liked them and the kids. It wasn't a loss to us because it saved us a trip to the Goodwill. Then around the end of that second month something happened. I realized I had gone grocery shopping a little more. I noticed I was cooking for the boys a little more, as well as they were at the house more. I realized that I only ever saw the parents when they needed help with something. I discussed this with my boyfriend, wondering if maybe I was being absurd, but he confirmed that I was right in these observations. We discussed the reasons why it could be. They were having trouble with finding work, they did day labor. They knew their kids were safe when they were with us. The kids were guaranteed food here when things were tight there, which may have been caused by the lack of work. We discussed many options. Then we hit the gray area that we didn't want to acknowledge. There was a risk they may have some problems. This was after all just a theory. The boys were fine. We liked having them around. They were well behaved, helpful, and enjoyed themselves. And we didn't mind cooking a little extra. I would just have to cut back on the options available when they did show up to eat, so we wouldn't go through so much. We had our own financial challenges, as I was the only one currently working at this point in time. As for the parents, it was going to be like pulling a band-aid off. We were their friend, but no more money lending. No more lending of tools or items that we would need back. We had never gotten anything returned to us that we lent them. The money was only $5 or $10 here or there, but it adds up quickly. So the next time the mother called with an issue, needing our help at 3 in the morning, when any normal person would be asleep, I just listened to her ramble saying nothing. I didn't know how to respond. It was bizarre, and finally I had to tell her that I would have to hand the phone to my boyfriend so that he could talk to her because I couldn't understand her. After 10 minutes of watching an ever-changing set of facial expressions, he finally got off the phone with a heavy sigh and looked at me. "What is it?" I asked. He shook his head. She said they were broken down and needed help, and when I asked what car part was acting up, she said that they needed a few dollars for gas probably, even though she had just put gas in. She was all over the place, and I could barely keep up with what she was saying. "What do you say?" "There's nothing we can do." By month 3 things had noticeably shifted. They were still nice and friendly, but their behavior had changed. Every time I came home, they had stories to regale of bizarre and weird things. Cracked circles, hooded figures roaming the neighborhood, shootings, machete fights, the only one of these stories that turned out to be true, and more. Then frustration at the landlady, who had been the mom's best friend just a few years prior because she had given the mom a job as a cleaning lady, and the property manager fired her just 2 days later because he was a chauvinistic pig. I just nodded my head and would slip inside as quickly as possible. Nearing the end of the 3rd month, I had gone into the office to pay my rent. I like to avoid crowds, so I get it handled early. I could tell that the landlady was stressed. We were on friendly terms, and I asked if she wanted to get some air. She nodded, and outside in privacy, she divulged to me a river of stress and weariness caused by the pair in apartment 212. Come to find out, they had moved in only a month prior to us, the mom having contacted the landlady in need of help. They were about to move into Tent City. The landlady did too, not only helping them get a place, but giving them furniture and assistance, which she discovered was being turned around and sold. They were staying up all night, banging on her door. She lived on site, randomly stating various things, asking for favors, and saying they were seeing thugs and bad stuff happening. It reached a point where the landlady wouldn't answer the door anymore, leaving her husband to do it because she didn't feel safe. Things had hit a catalyst when she found out the assistance program that the mom said they said was going to handle their case and help pay for everything didn't even have them on record. She had to cut electricity and condemn the apartment, giving them 24 hours to leave, saying they wouldn't be allowed on the property until they showed up with a receipt, because she held out hope that, if they paid their bill, they could still get better. That for the first time in 20 years, she called DHR because she believed the children didn't deserve to be put through the mess that was happening and needed to be taken care of, even if it meant she would be taking them in. That they were breaking into other apartment properties the owner had, sleeping in there. There's so much more, and after an unexpected hour in listening, we hugged, realizing that we'd both been dealing with the same beast, just different perspectives. She gave me her number before she went inside, asking me to text her if I saw them on the property because they weren't supposed to be there for any reason. A day hasn't gone by that I haven't seen the vehicle, nor my boyfriend. He sees it when he takes out our dog late at night. I see it when I pull into park, sitting there. I see outlines of bodies, but I don't look because if I do, I know I'll try to get involved, the very thing I was asked not to do. So instead, I snap a picture, send it to the landlady, and a few minutes later get a thank you, and I go inside. Then last night, while outside walking the dog, my boyfriend saw the mother stumbling around in the parking lot. She didn't seem straight, as he put it. I told him to call the landlady and just leave it at that. It wasn't long after I received another call from him, saying that there was a banging on the door and it was incessant. When he looked through the peephole, it was her. He couldn't understand what she was saying, and even with our dog and the apartment locked tight, he was somewhat scared about the potential chaos. I stayed on the phone with him until someone showed up and he could hear voices outside the door, then fading. I hung up shortly after because I had to get to work, and he promised me he would be okay and call if anything were to happen. These are two people who used their children to try and get whatever they could from whoever they could to turn around and sell to support their habit. We were lucky because we were able to see the signs, and even though we were directly involved, minimize the burns, but they will still be there. I'll never stop worrying about what happened to the boys. I'll never understand how two people could wreak so much chaos in just one community that, otherwise, is friendly, caring, and supportive. I'll always watch a Cadillac drive by and wonder if it's them, if they're still living out of it, or if they've moved on. While they never outright were terrible, there was just enough damage, just enough trouble, just enough attempted manipulation, that it will forever be in the back of my mind and make me question others just a little bit more. I'm glad neighbor's kindness is kind of weirding me out. My significant other, and I bought a house late last year. The neighborhood is great, but our next-door neighbor is getting a little overbearing in his kindness. I'm looking for a little validation and maybe a bit of advice here. We moved in the middle of winter and we both work full-time jobs, second shift. The neighbor to our left almost never speaks to us and is quiet, perfect neighbor in my opinion. The neighbor to our right seemed nice enough. He shoveled our walkway once without being asked, so my did it for him the next time it snowed as a thank you. He eventually went and bought a snow thrower, which was honestly a bad investment. We have a shared dirt driveway and not much sidewalk, and offered to clean our walkway on a regular basis. We were appreciative and let him do as such. He used the snow thrower on said dirt driveway often, and I have a white car. I would often come out to dirt and grass all over the side of the car, but because he was getting rid of the snow, and I'm introverted as duck, I kept my mouth shut. Snow season passed and now's the time for mowing. We don't own a lawn mower, but he also kindly offered to mow our lawn for us. Said he doesn't work, and he passes the time by doing work around the house, so he didn't mind helping us out. Again, we were very appreciative and let him do as such. At one point, he let the grass go for about a month, and I decided it was time for me to take over. It's not his responsibility, so I'm not going to go ask him to do it, but it needed to be done bad. My mom lives nearby, so I decided to start borrowing her lawn mower once every week or two and would mow the lawn myself. First day I did it, neighbor came out saying he was going to do it later that day, and his partner asked why he wasn't doing it when she saw me doing it. It's a kind gesture, but it wasn't getting done in a timely manner, so it was no big deal for me to do it myself. And I are the homeowners, so it's our job anyway. I told him I needed the exercise anyway and it was fine. So he starts promising to weed whack in the future. That's fine. We don't have an outdoor plug on our house and don't yet have a place to store a gas-powered weed whacker, unless I took it to my mom's. So if he wants to do that, then he's more than welcome. To this date, he hasn't, but still not a problem. Not his job. A few weeks ago, he and his partner catch me in the back doing yard work, and we start talking. During the conversation, he tells me I'm welcome to go in and out of his garage and use whatever I want, whenever I want. I thank him. And he asks me if we have a washer and dryer because he's seen us carrying laundry out to our car. I tell him no. He then says he almost offered for us to do laundry in his house. Again, I thank him and politely decline, but I'm starting to feel weird about the offers at this point. Then he goes on to say he knows what the inside of my house looks like, and that we have washer/dryer hookups, which really starts ringing alarm bells in my head. He claimed he Googled it when it was for sale because he was going to show it to his partner's niece or whatever, but still weird to casually throw in "I know what the inside of your house looks like" to a person who's never invited you into their house. We do have washer/dryer hookups, but don't own a washer or dryer around 11:30 p.m. The gate to my front yard was open, so I'm instantly on edge wondering what the duck. I get out of my car and neighbor materializes out of nowhere to tell me he'd mowed our lawn. Our outdoor light fixture is broken, and he never turns his on, so I only really see his silhouette at this point. I had let the lawn go for a few weeks because of rain, heat, and work, but I plan to do it over the weekend and tell him as such while thanking him. He says he knows my son will be starting school soon and we won't get as much time with him when that happens, so he wanted to give us time to spend with him and not have to worry about other things. How nice, I think. He goes on to say he tore out some plants near our gas meters, went into our garage, and used my yard waste bags to put the grass clippings in. My garage has no door, which is why we don't own any lawn tools yet. Took the few things we have in the garage out so he could sweep before putting everything back, and went behind our garage and ran the mower over the foliage that's growing back there. I was kind of speechless. I told him I'd plan to get back there and go through that part of the yard, just haven't had a chance between work and life. He said he was tired of seeing whatever foliage hanging over his fence into his yard and figured he'd take care of it. I had no idea it was going into his yard, or I'd taken care of it sooner. Maybe come talk to the homeowner about it like a grown man would instead of taking it upon yourself to go into their yard and rip their yard up. I'm sure it was just a bunch of weeds, but it's still my yard and I wanted to go through and see what was what. He then went on to say he hoped I didn't want to do anything with the plants that were near the gas meter, and he's sorry if I did. I'm pretty sure they were just weeds, so it's fine, but if he has the mindset to be able to say that after tearing said plants out of my yard, why doesn't he have the mindset to actually ask if it's okay before he starts tearing plants out of my ducking yard? He also asked if the light on my garage worked, no, and said he was thinking about pulling his car up to my garage so he could stand on it and put a light bulb in it. Also brought up weed whacking again, saying he was going to get some wires soon but almost came out with a pair of scissors to cut the grass around my fence. I'm just speechless and don't know what to say anymore other than thanks. In my head I was going, you shouldn't have. You really shouldn't have. No, I'm serious, you shouldn't have. Why are you trying to fix up my house? You are not on my mortgage. You don't get any say in how my house or yard looks. Please stop and just speak to me if something in my yard is affecting something in your yard. I just couldn't get those words out. I made the mistake of telling him we were planning on ripping up the fence and putting a standing mailbox in because the fence is in shitty shape and the mailbox sucks, so every time it rains our mail gets ruined. And now I'm almost waiting to come home one day to find him sitting on our step like a happy puppy with pieces of our fence sitting on the curb. Please tell me I'm not the only one who thinks that all these kind gestures of his are getting a bit weird and overbearing. Thanks for listening.